Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Bullish Banter. I hope you enjoyed the last one, and definitely you would want to sit down and listen to this, given it comes and marks a special year for FX Pesa in Kenya. And I'll be joined by a very special guest. Some of you might know him, but if you don't, you might learn or want to learn how to wink if you don't know how to. As usual, I'm your host, Jesse. I'm joined by Rufus.
Hi guys.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Yes.
My name is Bernard Nyaga.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. If you don't know, he's Elias, at least on TikTok, he's a winking trader. I know some of you have checked that out. And he does a very special job at FX Pesa, and I do like for him, of course, to elaborate on it. But before we get there, how are you guys dealing with the current economic situation? What is your take on it?
Oh, I think we're living in really interesting times. I can start to speak about, for example, what's happening now.
Yeah.
The Russo-Ukrainian war.
Yeah.
And I will talk about this for a decade. This is so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like a Call of Duty game. However, lives have been lost.
Sadly.
This is very heavy.
Yeah. It has been going on for obviously a long time. I don't know if... of course, in regards to most of the listeners and obviously investors generally, are they paying and putting some credit to it, or just, factoring it in mind that there's some war going on, but, life must continue?
I think people are just following the top story.
Yeah.
So it's more or less like Russia, Ukraine have been put aside. Now everyone is talking about France, the riots happening in France.
By the way, you see, the world is experiencing weird and sort of violent moments everywhere. Maybe you can elaborate what is happening in France and perhaps...
For France, I think there was a tipping point. There has been a lot of imbalance in how the French government has been treating its own citizens.
Yes.
So I think the tipping point was on Wednesday last week when the police shot a teenager on a traffic incident. Then that kind of caused everyone to blow out.
Okay.
Yeah. So since then, we have been having demonstrations happening each and every day.
Yeah.
But the surprising thing, when the markets opened earlier today, Monday, there was no much happening with the French stock market index. It was quite resilient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because maybe they don't think it will escalate to something significant, maybe, shutting down of government services or some companies losing some, significant value of their properties and equipment?
I think we are seeing the same reaction that we saw with, remember George Floyd?
Yes.
And the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of protests happening in the US,
Yes.
but the stock market was quite resilient. It was just going up rather than seeing a panic selling happening.
Yeah. Now, you said it's like a code of COD,
A Call of Duty game.
Yes, COD. Of course, the most significant bit of the Russian war was recently when the Wagner Group basically, sort of invaded the city. Okay, my opinion is this. I don't know if you share it. It was like a staged, event to weed out non-loyal participants within the military rank, as we have seen a lot of resignations and firing and even declining of the New Deal to have Wagner mercenaries, acting on behalf of Russia.
Yeah.
Maybe what is your take on that?
I think we should move back and try and figure out what is this Wagner Group.
Okay.
So Wagner is a military, a de facto military group that the President Putin himself uses.
Okay.
So it's made up of ex-servicemen who are serving in the Russian army.
Yes.
And also some convicts, right?
Yeah.
And the leader himself, Prigozhin, I hope I've pronounced it right.
I wouldn't know, but
Russian Ukrainian names.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's come out of late with issues especially pertaining his emotional stability. You've seen him coming out in videos very proactive and actually addressing Putin and his ministers, top official government ministers, in a very outright manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that requires a lot of steel between your legs.
Of course. It's bullish. It's bullish.
Okay.
So in my books, I think it was the biggest recruitment exercise that Russia has done recently.
Yes.
The Wagner Group is the most battle-ready unit in the entire country in Russia.
Yeah.
They have a lot of experience in recent conflicts in different countries.
Yes.
Like Mali, Libya.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you add them to the Russian military, it's basically a big plus.
Okay. Perhaps if I don't know, but we have seen recently, of course, to another geopolitical issue, the US and the Chinese also opening some diplomatic sort of ties with some military influence. I don't know if this is something to be worried about or something to, keep in mind, because last year when the Ukraine issue started, we saw some significant drop in the market. Oil was basically hitting record highs of over $100 a barrel. We saw grains basically having some issues in terms of cancellation of maybe orders, and stock markets sort of volatility went up. But despite what we have seen with the Wagner Group and everything, volatility index for those who trade with the FXPESA VIX roll, you are seeing it hovering around 13, as opposed to maybe with all these things going on, you should expect volatility to be at highs of maybe 15. So is the market already pricing the consequences of this war, or they are yet to see its extended impact to people's way of life, be it spending or consumption?
I'll talk about geopolitics when it comes to that.
Okay.
So we have the allies, the NATO allies,
yes.
and we have the BRICS.
Uh-huh.
So when we look at the NATO allies,
Yeah.
Japan is one of them. And Japan, despite of the price cap that was put on Russian oil, have decided they will go for it and even pay a premium.
Okay.
So when it comes to what is happening now with oil, I believe the WTI is trading at 76 at this particular point of the podcast recording.
Yeah.
And both Russia and the UAE have cut the oil supply as per today morning, right?
Yes. Russia basically cut oil supply by 500,000 barrels per day.
Yes.
Yeah, and that led to quite a big spike this morning.
I believe that is in addition to already an existing cut of almost over 1 million barrels a day. Yeah?
Yes.
So I know we have spoken about this earlier. Is this something maybe aimed at peeping the price up, or it's actually just a tug of war of ideas between these economies? What might be your take on it?
I think it's the OPEC plus nations. They've been trying to keep oil above $80 per barrel.
Yes.
So currently it's very low. And from the economic data we are seeing with manufacturing PMIs,
yes,
China's recovery is slowing down.
Yeah.
The Eurozone is already in a technical recession.
Yes.
Majority of the big economies in the Eurozone, they are having a very slow manufacturing sector.
Yeah.
The UK is also being hit. Switzerland is also the same.
Yeah.
So with global manufacturing slowing down, it basically implies a slowdown in oil demand.
Okay.
So in order to maintain prices at the same level or even higher, the OPEC has to keep cutting output.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe in line with that, are these things any trader would ideally be following? Because there are a lot of things to follow. And I know in your trading journey and plans, you cannot be like trying to read whatever is posted on CNN every time. Yeah. So maybe to you, Bernardo, what are some of the things you are, keeping them in a reminder format, just to look what is escalating, so that when you trade, okay, gold, this is what I should be looking for in case there is a change in policy stance or something like that. What are some of the things you are working with?
One of the key things is the US interest rate.
Okay.
The US interest rate is very key when it comes to trading and the fundamentals. It affects oil, affects gold, the dollar. And technically the dollar right now, I know BRICS are trying to move away from the dollar. And they're actually having a meeting on July 22nd, I believe.
And they're having too many meetings to discuss the same thing.
Jesse, you should see the number of applicants waiting to join BRICS.
Yeah.
Of late,
We're
Ethiopia.
talking about 5 countries that basically command 40% of the global population.
Okay.
and 26%
Yeah.
of global GDP.
Yes.
So this is nothing to joke about.
Okay. Okay. So fair. My point or my view is they need to, of course, pay off the significant billions in debt. And we saw a report from a Russian oil minister, I think it was 3 months ago, when he was saying they already started transacting in their own currencies, you know?
Yeah.
So the Indian rupees, they have billions of them in banks, and based on the fiscal laws within India, it cannot be used as a legal tender anywhere else. So they don't know how to basically, you know, work with it. That's why I'm like, okay, you want to do this, but for you to deviate from USD as the currency of international settlements of transactions, you need to do your obligations, maybe pay off your US dollar denominated debt, and then introduce the others.
I don't think any country is looking to pay off its debts.
Interesting.
So even if they are transitioning, they're not like just making a blanket statement that from today we are not going to be using dollars.
Yes.
So what they are doing is reducing their overdependence by, for instance, if let's say China is buying oil in Iran,
Yes.
then they want to transact within their own currencies in that bilateral agreement.
Okay.
Kind of similar with what we had. You remember the announcement where we would be buying oil from Saudi Arabia in Ghana shillings?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how that went out, but after a couple of months, we have seen petrol retailing at 195. So,
Okay.
As of yesterday, it was at 195.
Yes.
Yeah. With the addition of course, the 8%, VAT to now a settlement that is for Kenyan citizens per se. Yeah? Now, back to now, this is why you see I hold this view. I guess it's something maybe we can discuss later, but for US, they have given up some of the, currency measures these countries already have, so that they're able to basically, have the dollar as the trading currency globally. There are some sacrifices you need to make as a nation, maybe allow your currency to be, how do I put it? Have low interest rate, for example, have very low savings rate, you see, something you will find not in Japan. They have a very high savings rate. Their credit is quite expensive as well. So there is that things which you need to balance off to allow your currency to be used outside there,
Actually, as of today, interest rates are really low in Japan.
Okay.
The official rate is negative 0.1%.
Okay.
The bonds are currently capped at plus or minus 0.5%.
Okay.
So the cost of credit in Japan is really low. And that's why we have in the entire Asia, the Japanese Nikkei 25 index is the best performing one so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So same case with China. They recently cut interest rates by 10 basis points.
Okay.
So they are currently at around 3.45%.
Okay.
Which is way lower compared to the US, which has hiked to 5.25%.
Okay.
So right now, as we speak, we are seeing a lot of cracks happening in the West, where central banks have really hiked interest rates. Whereas for China, it's recovery. They had a lockdown for 3 years. But for Japan, I think they are really doing well.
Maybe, Bernard, what are some of the countries, of course, besides the normal BRICS as Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, what are some of the countries which wish to join in so that command such significant, GDP production and obviously population? What are these new countries, basically, for those who may not be familiar?
Of late, I can see countries such as Ethiopia, Egypt, which is very key. We have Turkey.
Okay.
Is it?
Yes, Turkey.
Yes, who also want to join into the BRICS.
Okay.
I think if people don't know, BRICS was started, you can correct me if I'm wrong, around 2001. And South Africa was the most recent entry into the BRICS. And that was in 2010.
Definitely.
So right now you can see a lot of mobilization to de-dollarize.
Okay.
Is that
that is very true. I think even
our
country, our president has mentioned the same sometime previously. So I know the conversation is gaining momentum. I am not, let's say for me, I'm not convinced until I see some significant action being taken, be it by their legislators or, the real people who make the law, and of course the international engagements as well.
Well,
I think as for
I don't
now-
think for a majority of African nations, they are being convinced to join the BRICS.
Okay.
It's the current economic situation where they don't have dollars. In Kenya, you don't have dollars. Ethiopia doesn't have dollars.
Yes.
Egypt is broke. So they're looking for an alternative way
Yes.
to interact with the rest of the world.
Okay.
Exports, imports, without having to depend on a dollar that they have to really work hard for.
Okay.
While on the other hand, the US is able to print free of charge.
Yeah. Maybe that brings in a very important question, right? I know you say dollar is basically scarce, and with scarcity, the price definitely goes up. And we are seeing manufacturing going down. And I think I was also seeing another report, perhaps, Apple cutting their new product goals in terms of revenue and everything, right?
Yeah.
I think American companies are not doing badly off. Maybe at least tech sector have been quite resilient.
Yes.
What would you pin to the main reason why the dollar is gaining strength compared to other economies? And it's not like the economy is growing faster than the rest.
Well, for the US, I think since last year when they started hiking interest rates, we have been sold this policy where the central bank is tightening and tightening. So interest rates have really went up, sky high.
Yeah.
And everyone expected the US economy to crash as a result.
Yes.
But then, on the other hand, when you compare with the fiscal spending, it has been going up only. So it's not like the US is cutting on its expenditure. The expenditure is rising. And that's acting as a stimulus package, but rather from the fiscal side.
I think if you look at even S&P 500, NASDAQ, they are at record highs at the moment. The entire month of June, they were basically appreciating, you know? So
I remember last year they passed the bill. I think it was, the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yes.
Yeah, in that bill, they basically created $1 trillion more to spend. So you can imagine cutting inflation by spending more. So what we have been seeing is a crazy situation where if a central bank is, say, tightening policy, like what we are seeing here in Kenya, I remember Kamau pushed interest rates by 100 basis points to 10.5. So as a result, we expect the Kenya shilling to be more resilient, but the stock market to be weaker. But then for the US, it's the other way around. So every time there's a more monetary tightening, we see the dollar continue to rise. But also, since the government is still spending more, the equities are also rising. So we're in this unprecedented situation where the correlations are not working anymore.
Would you say the markets are choppy?
Well, not choppy. I would say the Nasdaq had the best half year in its entire history. Meaning that things are really going up. Yes, there's numerous fears in the market. Of course, the high interest rates would cause a crack somewhere, be it banking, could be commercial real estate. So there are those fears about that. There's fears about China. If China curbs everyone, gets worried. So if it's slowing down, then it's also a considerable factor. There's issues about a very strong dollar, which are causing companies like Apple and Tesla to cut prices for their products.
Definitely.
A fun fact I came to actually find out this weekend. So intentionally, the Chinese government is devaluing their currency by about 40%.
Yes.
And in comparison to the dollar, you'd now find that the Chinese currency, the yuan, will be able to have more purchasing power.
Yes.
If you're able to buy 1 pen with $1, in China, you're able to buy 2 pence with the same equivalent dollar form. So they're able to devalue their currency by about 40%.
That's interesting.
So this would, in tandem, guide foreign investors to jet into the country and do business. Basically, it's an open sign to say we are open for business.
So the overall picture is actually the deindustrialization of the US. So if you're a big manufacturing company in the US, every time you try to sell your products to the rest of the world, they are very expensive because the dollar is just gaining against other currencies. So naturally, you find yourself forced to move your production to other countries where the production costs are cheaper, and then bring the finished products to the US and to the rest of the world. So that's why we are seeing companies like Apple, Tesla, doing a majority of their manufacturing in China and then selling to the rest of the world.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned, just to wrap up on the interest rate, last week we had a number of speeches by Powell. And I think one of the things which was quite clear in all the speeches he gave was that they need to slow down on the hiking, given the inflation is basically reacting to their policy in a lagging manner. And another thing, interesting thing happened. Gold hit the 1890s price, looking to retest, meaning that perhaps even as the dollar strengthened, people are reducing, I would say, getting into the the safe haven assets, while Japanese yen is weakening. What do you make of that?
I would actually say when Powell made that speech, technically you'd expect a dovish effect on the dollar. Contrary to that, the dollar gained. So the markets are driven by volatility such as this. So it's actually a very interesting landscape.
So they have priced in already whatever. If he says this, they know they will perhaps not hike in the next meeting. I believe that is what the market is saying with the prices.
I have a contrary opinion. So from the last two speeches, basically Jerome Powell said they're looking to at least do 2 more rate hikes by the end of this year, which would eventually push interest rates in the US to around 5.75%, being the upper limit. However, investors are not concerned about those 2 rate hikes. Those ones have already been priced in. So everyone has been trying to focus on when the Fed would actually start cutting interest rates. So the fact that we are already planning 2 more rate hikes this year, it only means that the potential for a rate hike goes into next year. Sorry for that. So there is that expectation that the Fed will continue holding rates higher and for longer. And that is expected to eventually start hurting business revenues. So for now, since the government is still spending more, we are seeing the dollar continue to strengthen because of high interest rates. Of course, if you go to like US money market funds, they are currently yielding between 4.5% and 5%. So a lot of people are being incentivized to save. And this is basically creating dollar scarcity and interest rates are continuing to rise.
Interesting. When you talked about MMFs, and people are continuing to save, I think in Kenya right now, we have hit a record high in savings interest, around 7.96. But now the problem, of course, is our inflation is again way up. So it's an interesting scenario. And also some of the assets under management in Kenya, I think they have increased over the last 1 year. There was an article on Business Daily saying that people are depositing more in banks and not, spending. I guess that's how they're dealing with the high cost of living and everything else. Now, I know we can't address all the factors that are driving this. And Bernard, you had an interesting Department of Education. Perhaps what are some of the locations of these training facilities where our traders can, make a trip to so that they can learn more of this, and obviously get clarity from their educators?
Okay, thank you for that, Jesse. Before I get into the locations, I find it very interesting how, number one, you can see economies such as the US, they're not cutting or having fiscal policies affect the government expenditure. However, for example, when we come to Kenya, we have now increased our interest rate by 100 basis points. So what impacts are we to feel from this? Because for us, we are in tandem also working with fiscal policies to reduce government expenditure. So unlike the US, where they're increasing and they're not reducing government expenditure, we on the other hand are doing the contrary.
I think for Kenya, we are being tightened from both sides. So the government is looking to cut expenditure. Sorry?
I don't think that is Kenya's plan.
Yeah.
but
You know, on the other hand,
with the
Yeah.
proposed salary increments and everything.
You could see this guy's cutting,
So it-
cutting cost on tea.
interest rates are rising. So it's a really bad squeeze,
Yeah.
which will definitely lead us into a direct recession. And in our worst case scenario, we could get into this form of depression where like farms are closing down,
Yeah.
Unemployment spikes higher.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like a potential reality for us.
Yeah.
You can see non-performing loans have increased
Yeah.
by close to 14.6%.
Yeah, definitely.
So people are not able to pay back loans, especially internal debt.
Yeah.
And this is a problem
Yeah.
that we can't ignore anymore.
Yeah, the entire IMF policy, they recently introduced what they're calling risk-based lending, where if you go to a bank, they evaluate you, your income and stuff, and then they give you a risk assessment report. They basically price your loan based on that.
Okay.
And now they are able to expand way beyond what the central bank is recommending.
Yeah, okay.
So it's basically commercial banks in Kenya being turned into Shylocks or something of that sort.
Where?
Yeah. At some point, the interest rates will be so high that it will be clearly exploitative, like the case we had with mobile app loans some other day before they were closed down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Also, that will affect the national debt, the national government
Debt.
pending bills
Yes.
in a very huge way. And we can see right now there's also lack of commitment and unrealistic budgets that have been set.
So individually, what do you do? Because I know for most of us, you have to at least now look for ways to cope with the.
I saw a tweet this morning.
Yeah.
Some guy saying, if you have a job outside this country, don't come back unless it's an emergency.
That's true.
It's
Seen
really
the
bad.
number of youth lining up to get passports.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Right now, the data stands at close to 3 million unemployed youth.
Okay.
So this shows you why they want to seek an employment opportunities outside.
Yeah.
Right now, when it comes to passport processing, we are not able to do half of what the demand has been set.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
I think the demand right now is close to 80,000 passports. But now we can only do close to 8,000 a day. So this shows that we'll have a lot of youth migrating to other countries to seek opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they perhaps not thinking of, investing? I know you can't really balance because first of all,
you don't invest when you have nothing.
This will also come back to the increase in interest rates.
Yeah.
This will make borrowing very expensive
Okay.
for individuals and also corporates.
Okay.
So this will also affect the youth having that entrepreneurial.
The cost of acquiring credit now is too expensive to sustain a startup and even maintain running it.
Look at it this way. That's true. Right now we have a lot of houses and properties that are being seized back by the bank.
Yes.
So it's a dire time.
Now, when you mentioned that, I saw the costs with which people are paying to go abroad, 40,000 shillings, 400,000 shillings. And in my head, I'm thinking, if you're paying 500,000 to go outside, of course, I wouldn't suggest any business to you, but if you can afford that money, then I think it's just to maybe pay for consultation at a lower fee with somebody whom you can, whom will not sell you something which you cannot maintain, but at least have some business or something or I don't know,
Jesse,
other than paying that amount to go outside.
tell me one thing.
Yeah.
If I give you $1,000 right now,
Yeah.
what business would you start in Kenya?
Well, not in Nairobi, first of all.
Yeah, in Kenya, anywhere.
For me, I already have a craft that I know how to work it.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely, that's an addition to my capital on my trading business, and maybe more positions on NVIDIA. That's me.
I remember the other day you were having a conversation.
Yeah.
This was about you remember when these tech companies, especially in the US, were recruiting out of coders, developers in Kenya.
Yeah.
And we had this revolution of tech bros making all the cash here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of guys working remotely before the company started firing them.
Yeah.
And now, once they got fired and they had a lot of dollars, you see most of them turning into crypto, forex trading, but they are not looking to start businesses here. And that tells you a lot. The business conditions are really bad for anyone who is starting a business.
Yeah, that's my point now. Because if you have that, you'll need to find a way to have some active income and passive income. So in your case, maybe MMFs for passive income, and then active income, maybe trading. I know crypto is not something there are a lot of risk again to this. So at least you can invest in yourself. Knowledge is everything, right? If you have that amount of money, maybe you can invest in your knowledge, understand it, and then you can be able to take some risks. I think that's a good way to do it as you look for an opportunity for a business.
Knowledge and self-improvement is very important.
Exactly.
It's one of the key things that any youth outside there should look into.
Okay.
This is why. This will lead to better opportunities when it comes to the job market, right?
Yeah.
And number two, your entrepreneurial skills also get to improve.
Definitely.
So if you're looking to set up a side hustle, work on self-improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me put something interesting that has come to my mind. You see, when you are paying this $500,000 to go outside Kenya, right?
Yeah.
You are expecting this economy is growing enough to offer you also a quality job.
Yes.
And what we have seen from just PMI coming low, services spending is also low.
Yeah.
Perhaps that is an indicative that even the grass is not necessarily greener.
Yeah. I think it's greener. I'm sure you have friends who have traveled abroad.
Yeah, definitely.
And got some good jobs and now they're building.
Yeah.
So I think an alternative, rather than just moving out of the country blindly, especially if you don't have a skill set or qualification, would be to grab a really good skill and then start thinking global.
Okay.
Look at maybe doing a remote job.
Yeah, definitely.
Could be content creation. Could be freelancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's unlimited income streams on the internet.
Yeah.
Rather than having to physically move around.
Yeah, and also given that internet is basically cheap in Kenya, and there are some facilities which offer free Wi-Fi.
So far.
Yes, so far. I
Before
think,
it gets taxed again.
Well, that's interesting. Are these some of the things you cover at FXPS Academies? I know you are involved with a lot of them. Right now, it's Africa-wise, not just in Kenya, but, East Africa at large. Are these some of the things maybe you impart to those who come to seek, okay, what can I do with this amount of money? Because I know for Rufus that these are some of the questions you ask, as a market analyst and everything.
Yeah, that's true. Very interesting point that you've raised there. So when it comes to, let me just take you back. When it comes to self-improvement, this is what we are doing at FXPESA.
Okay.
We have a very experienced team.
Okay.
Our education partners, very experienced, who are able to complement on your efforts to self-improve. And what we give you are opportunities to get into a global market.
Okay.
Stop thinking local, let's go global.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a side hustle, this is what we essentially do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how has the intake and feedback you are getting from those who come to those events? What are some of the lessons learned? Some things which.
And what's the number year to date?
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. So I'll start off with the impact. What I like to see is changing people's lives.
Okay.
Changing people's lives, be it at any particular point in life. Whether you're a youth, you just turned 18, you're on board. Soon as you're on board, you start trading very easy, and we train you how to do that. Whether you are probably a working from home person, you can do this as a side hustle.
Okay.
And I remember there was this conversation I was having with a certain lady. No names.
No.
So this lady, by what we taught her, it impacted on her financial ability to be able to even move from an abusive marriage.
Yeah.
So it's a whole spectrum
Yeah.
of how we change lives
Okay.
that works for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know people always want to make quick killing, and in terms of the markets. So perhaps your approaches to them, is it to, have this guy attend maybe a week something training, or you also mentor on, of course, I think we have had this conversation for personal finances as well. You don't allocate everything, but you, with the skills you gain, you are confident enough as you continue to trade on what amount of money basically you can apply, and obviously what sort of risks and products you can get into. Because I know, Bernard, we have spoken about it sometime, ETFs, you have been very much into ETFs, low risk, but also good. So is that something you try to curate the sessions, the learning, depending on the people? Because I know there are those old and busy people. You don't want them to put their pension in there.
Yeah.
That's actually very nice.
Yeah.
So I'll first start off with Rufus.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He mentioned he wanted to figure out what's the number year to date of how many lives we have touched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are on a mission to educate or impact 1 million lives
Yeah.
within Africa.
Okay.
Not alone Kenya,
Yeah.
within Africa.
Okay.
And so far, we have been able to touch 683,000 lives.
Okay.
Whoa, that's a big number.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So from our target, we have 316
Yeah.
missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that we are able to do, and it brings us so much joy
Yeah.
to be able to touch lives, as I said before.
Okay. Maybe in the future, what are some of the plans you have in terms of bringing people on board, and more importantly,
Bridging the 316K.
Yeah. What is
gap.
the plans?
Okay, very vocal, or what can I say? Let me rephrase it this way. I'm a Pan-African.
Okay.
And what I truly hold dear is a sense of community within our society.
Okay.
So what I think we should do, or what we are looking to do, is to have that communal attribution to trading.
Okay.
You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it as a silo.
Okay.
It helps to have that support system.
Okay.
And that's what we do.
Okay.
With also our market analyst Rufus here, who's smiling. He's waiting for me to say his name. However, it's to bring that communal aspect into trading. So that is a backbone when it comes to trading and gallivanting through the global markets.
Yeah, of course, trading is borderless, and of course, the markets have enough for everyone.
Yeah.
So if we have 100,000 traders participating and making money in the markets, you won't have less because I have more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's enough for everyone.
Excellent. I think that has been illuminating. I hope you have learned something, and we look forward to your events. Maybe your closing remarks and interesting facts, because you have a lot.
And follow the Winking Trader on TikTok.
Plug your where can people engage you as well?
Yeah.
Maybe they have ideas in terms of education, and of course, what are some of the parting shots you have for a young trader who is looking to begin and maybe wants to know how to take the journey?
Okay, I'll mention a couple of things. So first of all, this is a business like no other.
Okay.
You need capital. You need to invest. If you fund your account, for example, $5, this doesn't really help you much.
Okay.
So invest what you would call disposable income.
Okay.
Okay? Come invest like any other business.
Okay.
Okay? The second thing is seek knowledge. Look for as much content as possible. We have that content here and we offer it for free. Come check out this content. Come visit us at any satellite region that we're in: Kampala, Nakuru, Eldoret, Isili, Kitengela, Thika. So we have set these satellite offices or satellite regions, training facilities for you and for the youth to be able to impact on their self building initiative. Again, we've talked about how dire the times are.
Yeah.
So this is a solution for them.
Okay.
The third thing I'll mention is one of my favorite topics so far. What's happening in Russia?
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry to take you back, but we might be on the verge of nuclear weaponry,
Okay.
and battle starting. Right now, you can see the nukes and the nuke warheads have been moved to Belarus,
Okay.
where Wagner is being offered asylum by the President Alexander. So these are very interesting times, and volatility can be expected from news like this.
Okay.
So don't sit at home. Come, take your chance and start trading.
Okay.
The final thing
Yeah.
I would say is you need to keep your head straight. When traders are getting into the trading space, they need to get their head right. Try and quiet the noise around. Okay?
Yeah.
Have a sober mind getting in, and don't be reactive to the markets. Be well prepared.
Yeah.
Have a proactive approach.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
Oh, where can people engage you now?
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm trying this social media thing called TikTok. It's very demanding. However, you can find me there as the Winking Trader,
Okay.
Nyaga 254,
Okay.
Nyaga Njogu 254. Also on Twitter.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Rufus, your closing remarks? And of course, I know you will be going live in a couple of...
Yes. I think a lot has been said today.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's very educative to a lot of our listeners. So my parting shot will be to active traders who started this journey. They went through some form of education. They started trading on $5, $50, $100, $1,000. Then after blowing the first account, they quit.
Okay.
Yeah. So my advice is stop looking at those Instagram influencers. Stop looking at those guys offering signals. Stop looking at bots, binary. I get out of this in my inbox.
Okay.
Just go back, realign your goals and objectives. You already made a big step. So all you have to do is to refocus, find a new strategy, practice with it, and then get back with more confidence. A majority of the profitable traders I know were traders who once quit, and then they gain confidence to get back.
Okay.
Just like for Twitter users. For most of us, like we joined Twitter, it was too complex, we dropped, then got back. Yeah.
And now there is Truth Social, and now you have limit of views. So it's interesting times we are living in. I hope you have learned one or two things. If you haven't, you can pose in your question so that we address it next time. Hopefully that will clarify your thoughts. That is all from my end. You can follow and share Bullish Banter on whichever platform with your friends and families. We hope it is educative and we are not using terms you might not be familiar with. Adios from my side.